KBLA 1580. We've got you live.
In the middle of sorrow, you can't be up and looking down. A light of day tomorrow will bring. Oh, you hear the voice of freedom, telling you this can never be done. No matter how hard reality seems, just hold on to your dreams, yeah.
To the sky. As long as you keep your head in the sky, you can win, even after Memorial Day weekend. Hope you all had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. It was nice here in DC. A little bit of a mixed bag in terms of the weather, but it was very nice. Coming to you live from our nation's capital. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and chief national political analyst. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. That's DrNiiQuartelai. Pro tip, type in Dr. Nii and boom, bam, boom, there I am. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. See, I got to talk low because Alexa is around here somewhere and just might.
I'm not sure.
You see what I mean? You see what I mean? Also, be sure to subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you never, ever, ever miss an episode. And it's a special day out there for all the hamburger lovers out there. Happy National Hamburger Day 2024. That's right. The hamburger is already perhaps the most celebrated main dish in the United States. But even with all the love, the burger still deserves its own special day. That's why this year, National Hamburger Day falls on Tuesday, May 28th. And so y'all get ready out there to take a bite. The hamburger and its close sibling, the cheeseburger, are America's favorite entrees, according to a YouGov's regularly updated list of the most popular American dishes. Only mashed potatoes and French fries rank slightly higher. 86% popularity for each of those sides. The hamburger earned 85%. The cheeseburger, 83%. Did you know an estimated 50 billion burgers are eaten in the U.S. each year? 50 billion? There you have it. So if you're wondering what's for dinner tonight, why not enjoy a hamburger? And for those of you out there that aren't meat eaters, let me just say I can personally vouch for the Beyond Burger. You know, there's some good garden burgers out there. There's a whole range that is very different from when I was growing up. And so indulge. It's time for your national news roundup. It's time for the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And topping us off, Democrats are to nominate Joe Biden in virtual session to ensure he's on the Ohio ballot. USA Today is reporting that Democrats will virtually choose President Biden as their nominee after Ohio lawmakers dragged their feet in changing a state deadline that clashed with the party's convention. The Democratic National Convention will hold a virtual roll call ahead of its August 19th convention in Chicago and before Ohio's August 7th deadline to certify the ballot. That's what party officials have told sources. The announcement came the same day that the Ohio legislature convened a special session at Governor Mike DeWine's behest to get Biden on the ballot. A DNC committee will meet next week to greenlight virtual proceedings, and all members will vote on the change sometime after that. Democrats have yet to set a date for the roll call, which was also held virtually in 2020 because of COVID-19. Joe Biden will be on the ballot in Ohio in all 50 states, and Ohio Republicans agree. That's what DNC Chair Jamie Harrison said recently. And so I guess there's nothing left to do but get it done. Moving on from news here stateside to news overseas, NBC News is reporting that U.S. aid deliveries to Gaza by sea have been suspended after damage to the temporary pier. The United States military has been forced to suspend aid deliveries in Gaza by sea after its temporary pier system off Gaza's coast suffered damage in bad weather. That's what a United Nations official has said. The damage was to a causeway that is attached to the beach in Gaza. Aid is shuttled onto the causeway by small boats, and after initially unloaded on the massive floating dock, the UN official said that it could take weeks to actually repair. An official announcement from the U.S. is expected sometime today, according to U.S. Central Command. The damage is the latest setback, the latest one, to the temporary pier system, which was first announced by President Biden during the State of the Union address in March and became operational just 2 weeks ago. Over the weekend, 4 small U.S. military boats involved in ferrying aid broke from the moorings in bad weather. 2 of them washed up on the coast of southern Israel near the city of Ashdod, while the other 2 beached in Gaza. So a little bit of a setback there, but hopefully they can get that operational, get that temporary pier operational soon, because we know a lot of folks are in desperate need for that aid. Also, staying overseas for a moment, NPR is reporting that Pope Francis has apologized for using a slur referring to gay men. That's right. Pope Francis has issued an apology for using a derogatory term referring to gay men during a closed-door discussion among bishops earlier this month. During the meeting with Italian bishops at the Vatican last week, there was a discussion of whether to admit gay men to Catholic seminaries in preparation for the priesthood. Italian media reported that multiple people present at the meeting disclosed that Francis opposed the idea, saying that there was already too much frossicking. This is, my Italian is a little suspect. Use your imagination. Too much of that in the seminaries. And the term fracasine, I think I got that right, is highly offensive slang term in Italian referring to gay men and gay male culture. The controversy is the latest in a series of moves that many LGBTQ Catholics view as sending mixed messages. Earlier this year, you might remember that the Vatican issued a document titled Infinite Dignity, referring to what it called sex change and gender theory as grave threats. But late last year, Pope Francis issued guidance that allowed priests to bless people in same-sex relationships, although not to bless the relationship itself. Sounds like Pope Francis is walking that line. Sounds like he's walking a tight rope. You think he's walking it well? I don't know. I mean, it's, the Vatican. The Catholic Church is a major institution. And it can't be easy walking that tightrope. And that's all I'm going to say about that for now. But when we come forward, I'm going to be saying a whole lot more with my friend April Rain. She's joining us here. She's the founder and creator of Oscar So White movement. She's also a senior advisor to the Spill platform, and she is just a well sought out thought leader, and we are delighted to have her here to help us make sense out of today's headlines. More when we come forward with April Rain. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
Tavis Smiley here. We're getting closer to June 18th, and time is running out for you to register to join us for our historic symposium live on C-SPAN, Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Admission is free, but you must register at kbla1580.com right now if you want to be in the audience when the nation will see for the first time ever a stage full of brilliant Black folk talking about the urgency of now. Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. It's all going down. Well, it's actually all going up. Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. live from the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Again, admission is free, but we're filling up fast. So if I were you, I would log on right now to kbla1580.com to reserve your seat. Caring about the climate, caring about the community. We're KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
The Supplemental Security Income Program provides monthly payments to help meet basic needs, like putting food on the table, paying the rent, or buying new shoes for growing feet. You may qualify if your income and financial resources are low and you are 65 or older, or an adult or child with a disability or who is blind. Call 1-800-772-1213 or go to ssa.gov/SSI to start to apply. Produced by Social Security at U.S. taxpayer expense.
So you just used bug spray in your home. Now what? Well, between the waiting and waiting for things to dry up and keeping your family away from the mess, it hits you. You could have used Zevo. Unlike other bug sprays that stick around, Zevo goes from kill to clean in seconds. Plus, it's safe for use around people and pets when used as directed. Zevo, people-friendly, bug-deadly.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, Quartey, and delighted to welcome back. Can we get a sound effect, Miles? Something? I feel like with April Rain coming back, we may need to pump up that theme song or something like that. Welcome back, April Rain.
Thank you. I will also accept air horns, whatever you got back in the shop there.
You saw me over here. I was over here struggling to try and pronounce what Pope Francis was talking about. Apparently, it's Frociagini, which is the F word, not the FU word, but another F word that is a slur that digs into that old Latin dictionary real deep. And so, okay, Pope Francis. Doing too much.
Walking the tight rope, as you said.
He sure is. But speaking of the tightrope, there are a number of cases across the country that have gone resolved, but rather under the radar. It's not lost on me that we're actually celebrating our 2-year anniversary of A More Perfect Union. We've done nearly 250 episodes of this show since our start. And we were really intentional about wanting to start this show around the anniversary of the murder of George Floyd, because we wanted to make sure that we were doing our part to build a more perfect union by bringing on guests that are in the arena doing the heavy lifting. There are a lot of provocateurs out there that get a lot of attention. But in my view and in the view of our station leadership, not enough talk time, airtime out there for people that are really doing their part to build a more perfect union. And so hence why we have people like April Rain on, hence why we have the types of guests on that we do. And so thinking of the impact of the movement for racial justice that ratcheted up around the murder of George Floyd, wanted to dedicate, sort of the next block towards doing a look back and a look forward. The Guardian reporting that $150 million has been paid in police misconduct claims, showing violent response to 2020 protests. That's what experts are saying. And the 4 years since mass protests broke out over the killing of George Floyd, cities across the U.S. have settled more than 130 lawsuits involving police misconduct, with payouts totaling nearly $150 million to protesters, to journalists, to legal observers and bystanders. And this is according to an analysis of these lawsuits that was published just last week. April, as we do this look back and look forward, what should we make of, these $150 million in settlements? Is it really nothing to see here, or is it a reminder of our call to action to do the hard things?
I would never say that $150 million is nothing, but there are so many questions that revolve around these settlements. First and foremost, where's that money coming from, right? And so what we know is that for the most part, for the vast majority, the $150 million is not coming from the police departments, who may or may not be acknowledging any wrongdoing. Right. So sometimes they're like, oh, we're just going to pay you to shut up. We're going to pay you to go away. And then that money comes from the taxpayers. Right. And so those who are protesting, those who are in the streets, end up paying the settlement for being arrested, being violated, being injured by these people who are technically paid to protect and serve. And so that's where I think we need to start. The second thing is that very often in these cases, there's no requirement that there is any change from the police department. So those same officers will be at the very next protest doing the same thing, and we're seeing that at college campuses around the country, when city police departments are being called in to roughhouse and manhandle and violate the First Amendment freedoms of our children, right? The 18 to 21-year-olds who are out there protesting for a free Palestine. And what we see that is, even when a police officer is fired or reprimanded, and which happens very rarely, way too often he or she is able to go one county or one city over and get the same job back. And in my mind, if you have been convicted or even accused of violating the civil rights, the freedoms, the First Amendment protections of people in this country, you shouldn't be able to go and do it again, someplace 10 or 15 minutes further from your home.
I think you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, part of what you've laid out here is the perversion of our justice system. The fact that, to your point, it's taxpayer dollars that are paying these settlements. It's not these police departments who essentially resubmit budgets year over year that ask for more and more and more dollars. And so let me get this right. So the expectation is that your budget grows year over year over year, and that none of those dollars come out of your budget to pay these settlements. I mean, it almost makes you wonder, well, what if that was the case? What if these departments actually had to spend money out of their budget to cover these settlements? Would that be more of an incentive, for them to take reforms to their department's processes, to their standards, to their culture more seriously.
I think that's absolutely right. And it should also impact the pensions of the police officers, right? If you've got this job basically for life, or, you work 20, 25 years and then you can retire making, 80% of what you were making or whatever, what is the incentive to do better? Where is the incentive to sort of ameliorate the harm that you are causing to people who live in your community? That's the real concern. Where does the change come from? Sure, $150 million. The thing is, if part of the $150 million is going to people who did not break any laws. And so we need to remember that people who were protesting, journalists who were out there just not even involved, right? And just attempting to sort of chronicle what is happening in our streets around the country. And then they get hit in the face with a rubber bullet, or they get tear gas. Some of these folks, it may not be considered lethal injury, but it can be permanently scarring and disfiguring injury. And so now you've made a person or several persons disabled. And who is paying for their long-term care? Because I can assure you that the $150 million spread out amongst all these people is not going to cover their care from day to day for the rest of their lives when they were not breaking any laws.
That's right. That's right. And I just want to point out that Deion Jones, who was that protester who successfully won damages from the officer who shot him in the face with a rubber bullet, that was an LAPD officer. We've actually had him and his attorney on this show before. And so as we do a look back and a look forward, be sure to look back in the archive of A More Perfect Union and check out that episode where you have a chance to hear from him directly. But keeping with this idea of looking back and looking forward, after George Floyd's death, there were so many folks who declared racism as a public health crisis. USA Today is reporting that as the summer of 2020 heated up, the nation's racial divides were laid bare. We saw so many examples of local governments declaring racism as a public health crisis. How well are we doing? How well are we doing? Was that just all a lot of talk, or are there some glimmers of hope in those declarations, April?
I think that there are some sprinkles, but there's just so much more that needs to be done. So qualifying racism as a public health issue really means that money from the government can now be funneled into studying what the impacts of racism are around the country in these various communities. And so that's incredibly important because we know, there is environmental racism, there is educational racism, there is racism in the medical field. And so just acknowledging it is a good first step. One then needs to ask what's next, right? After you do all of the studies and the impact surveys and so on and so forth, what is actually going to happen? I also know that once you use the R word in racism, it shuts people down because they immediately think, oh, well, that wasn't me. I didn't own any slaves, right? We have to go through that every single time. When really what we need to be talking about is the systemic issues that impact people. There is a reason why Black communities were often on the east side, of a city. And that's because the way the wind blows, the toxins from the plants and the chemicals and so on would go that way. And so that was considered the least desirable neighborhoods of the city. And so that's where they put the Black and brown folks, right? And so even if you're not in construction or anything like that, the fact that our people have been living in those harmful areas, near the power towers that may cause cancer and so on. Those things need to be addressed. Having lead in buildings that are older, and those are the only buildings that are affordable to people of color, that is a race issue. And so how do we get the lead out of the building so our babies aren't impacted with respect to their education? Those are the kinds of questions that we need to be thinking about and how we move forward.
That's right. And, 2021 APHA analysis of 209 of these declarations found that 21 included 10 or more specific actions, like increasing leadership, staffing, and contractor diversity, or working with grassroots groups. 145 of these declarations included fewer than 10 actions, and 32 included no actions beyond declaring racism as a public health crisis. And so that gives you a little sense of, where we're at and where we have the potential to go. But, before we go anywhere, you got to know where you want to go. And so the fact that there are folks who declared this crisis, but stop short of saying, hey, and this is what we're going to do about it. And that's why we say every week, every day on this show, do what you can from where you are with what you have, but you got to be clear about what it is that you want to do. I know what I want to do. When we come forward, I want to keep talking to April Rain right here on A More Perfect Union. We're digging deeper into the headlines. Remember, this is your non-stop, one-stop shop for your national political digest with expert analysis on issues from the White House to your house, right here on A More Perfect Union. More with April Rain when we come forward.
The station you turn to when you had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Tyreek Wayne. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is reportedly talking to labor union leaders in what could be seen as gearing up for an attempt at a political comeback. There are reports Cuomo could be thinking about challenging Mayor Eric Adams, who's black, next year. Senator Tim Scott predicts former President Trump will be found not guilty in his criminal hush money case in New York City. The South Carolina Republican appeared on CNN's State of the Union as closing arguments are underway. Scott accused Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg of corrupting the justice system by going after the former president. Detroit, Michigan police are urging people who might have information on where 15-year-old Demetric Lewis Jr. is to speak up. Lewis has been missing since Sunday when he left his home in the 17,400 block of Plainview Avenue. He is black, 5 feet 10, 160 pounds, with black dreadlocks in his hair. That's the latest. I'm Tyreek Wynn on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Need money for the holidays? Avoid the yikes before Christmas. Hurry into Jackson Hewitt for a holiday loan on your tax refund, up to $1,000. Early refund advance offered to eligible clients. Application required. Finance charge applies. Loans by Republic Bank. Details at jacksonhewitt.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Bronny James has received invitations from at least 10 NBA teams to participate in an individual workout. LeBron's son appears to be drawing more interest around the league heading into the NBA draft on June 26. Bronny is projected to be a second-round pick, but his performance at the NBA Scouting Combine in Chicago 2 weeks ago may have boosted his draft potential. Even though 10 teams have extended invitations, Bronny has accepted only 2, the Lakers and Phoenix Suns. The Lakers have the number 17 pick in the first round. Phoenix has number 22. If the Dallas Mavericks beat Minnesota tonight to win the Western Conference title, the NBA Finals will not start until June 6th at Boston. The Celtics are awaiting the winner. Minnesota is down 0-3 in the best-of-7 series. 154 teams have been down 0-3 in the NBA playoffs, and none of them have bounced back to win the series. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice, and injustice. The courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Ariva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Ariva Martin in real time, when you wanted strength, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Did you know addiction to drugs like meth or cocaine is a disease and not a choice? But getting help is. If you have stimulant use disorder, you, your family, and friends may have a lot of questions, including where to start. Choose Change California can help. Make a change today and find a proven treatment option for you at choosechangeca.org.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey in conversation with April Rain, creator of the Oscar So White movement. She is a highly sought out senior advisor in tech. And we're happy to have you here with us to help make it make sense. And this next story is a doozy. And so fasten your seatbelt as we share with you the latest in the Diddy saga. USA Today is reporting that Cassie supporters say that Diddy isn't a real man. Experts say that response, well, it isn't helpful. You see, in the wake of a surveillance video showing Sean Diddy Combs physically assaulting Cassie Ventura in 2016 and his subsequent video apology, a wave of solidarity for Ventura has made its way to social media, but some of the rhetoric that's circulating is, well, a little problematic. At least that's what experts are warning. Ventura addressed her supporters on social media on May 23rd, writing, quotes, "Thanks for all the love and support from my family, friends, and strangers that I have yet to meet. The outpouring of love has created a place for my younger self to settle and feel safe now, but this is only the beginning. Domestic violence is the issue. Broke me down to someone I never thought I would be." And she went on to say, real men don't hit women. At least that's what many people had commented along the video released. And went on to say that men who hit women aren't men in this open letter. April, what do you make of this? I certainly see what experts are saying, the point that they're making, but I also see the point that that folks on the internet are making. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I understand the point. I think it's really important that we don't try to parse out what type of person Diddy is, and all abusers are, right? Real men hit women, fake men hit women, famous men hit women, everyday Joes hit women, old men hit women, young men hit women. It doesn't matter. Right. And so we should not, I think, get caught up in the name calling and determining, what kind of person he is. It's the allegations, we've seen them now. And so Diddy is an abuser, period. And to be clear, not just men are abusers, women are abusers too. And there's physical abuse and there's emotional abuse and so on. And so when we get into the weeds of who he is and all of that, I don't think it helps anything, right? And at some point it sort of veers into, from time to time, some homophobic language, right? Because there were allegations that perhaps Diddy was grooming young men. And so we could get into that territory. I think we need to stay focused. Diddy, we saw him on tape, literally kicking a woman when she was down after throwing her to the ground. And then knowing he did that, And knowing who he is, he had posted on his social media, you know, all of these allegations are false and people are just trying to destroy my name. Sir, you're on tape. And that was still up there that, you know, I didn't do this. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't me, you know, I'm going to clear my name. That was still up there when he did that little almost tearful apology, which I thought was a bunch of bunk as well, right? Because if you remember in the apology, he never mentioned Cassie's name.
Mm-hmm.
And so he never took full accountability, which says to me that not only did he not think that Cassie's name was worth mentioning, but there's also potential that Cassie was not his only victim. And so there have been talks about opening up the Kim Porter investigation because supposedly she died of pneumonia. But we know the power, influence, money, and resources that Diddy has. And so I think all of this needs to be gone through with a fine-tooth comb, regardless of how you identify Diddy. What we know is that he's an abuser.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that restorative justice is still possible here, or has that ship sailed for Diddy? Obviously, restorative justice means that you know folks need to come clean, you know, with the people that they have harmed, right? And you know have got to rededicate themselves in actions, not in words, but in actions, you know, towards holding themselves accountable and not righting that wrong, but righting the ship that allowed them to make that wrong. Do you think that restorative justice is still possible for Diddy?
I do not. And I believe very strongly in restorative justice, but the first part of it has to be accountability. Right. And this happened in 2016. So it's been 8 years. And what has happened in those 8 years? Diddy has changed his name. So now he's Love. Right. And because he's trying to rebrand himself, he stepped away from Revolt because his actions were impacting the company. You know, he denied and denied and denied. And now we've got this tearful apology. You know, and so if he only takes accountability when he's called out, when he's caught, then nothing tells me that he's even interested in restoring his humanity, right? He may be interested in restoring his brand, you know, because he's losing money and so on and so forth. But let's remember when Diddy attempted to give back the masters and the publishing rights to some of the folks that had worked for him, you know, when he was a producer, he only did that if there were certain stipulations met. It wasn't free and clear. It was only if I think that NDAs need to be signed. And that sort of tells you something as well, right? You know, if you're only going to give me what I deserve, if I jump through your hoops, that tells me that there should be no strings attached. So with respect to Diddy, I don't think that restorative justice is possible.
Well, according to a 2020 study by the National Coalition of Domestic Violence, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men experience sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner during their lifetime. And approximately 1 in 5 female victims and 1 in 20 male victims need medical care as a result. Shifting away from Diddy news to other news. Whites only job posting complaint is settled with tech staffing firm. That's what the DOJ is saying. NPR is reporting that a posting that included race and citizenship requirements and the stipulation don't share with candidates has resulted in a settlement agreement between Virginia-based IT staffing firm Arthur Graham Technologies Incorporated and the U.S. government. Under the arrangement, Arthur Graham will pay a civil penalty of $7,500, along with a total of $31,000 to 31 people who complain about the posting. The company, which is minority-owned and a federal contractor designated a disadvantaged business, will also be monitored to ensure compliance with anti-discrimination laws. What did the job posting say exactly? Well, it said it sparked outrage and accusations of discrimination when it circulated online last year, reading, quotes, only born U.S. citizens, white, in parentheses, who are local within 60 miles from Dallas, Texas, don't share with candidates. The words in brackets are not paraphrases. They appeared in brackets in the post. That's according to the Justice Department. Should we expect to see more of this, April?
Let's hope not. More of what? This one was weird because it's a minority-owned business, but supposedly they are soliciting for a whites-only position, right? And what I also find interesting is that the fine that the penalty that they had to pay was $7,500, which for the Justice Department is very low, and then $31,000, which means $1,000 to each of the applicants who said that they were harmed. And I looked into it a little bit, and this wasn't a company that had a long history of issues in this way, and they claim that could be true, could be not, that it was a rogue employee who made this posting because they were upset with the company. I'm not sure exactly what happened. And so it wasn't even a real posting. And when the company saw it, then they took it down. So the question there is, who is in charge of putting these postings out? Because they're making you look bad if they're not true. And so you need to tighten that down a little bit. But I don't know that this particular case is a harbinger of things to come.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of why I asked the question is because we're seeing the weaponization, of race, particularly of allegations of reverse discrimination. And so when I read the article, that's where my mind went. It's that, clearly, somebody there figured that if they put whites only in the post, right, that was going to attract a certain kind of attention. To your point, when we dig a little bit deeper into Arthur Grand Technologies and who are they, we know that their leadership is held by all their senior leadership positions are folks of color. We know that 80% of their staff are people of color. And so, this sort of posting just doesn't track with the folks who actually work there, right? But, I surely hope that we don't see, more folks out there that are, telling these tall tales and putting out fake job posts and engineering these reverse discrimination situations in order to get attention or create reputational harm for companies out there.
I think that's exactly right. And I think that your tie is a smart one, because we are absolutely still seeing the backlash to DEI, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so all of this seems like the pendulum swinging back away from being more intentionally inclusive and broad-minded when it comes to hiring folks.
That's right. And speaking of hiring, CBS defends their diversity hiring on SEAL team from anti-white discrimination suit. That's what I'm talking about. CBS filed a motion just last Thursday to throw out a lawsuit challenging its diversity hiring practices for writers on the show SEAL team, arguing that it has a First Amendment right to hire who it wants. Brian Beneker, who's the longtime script coordinator on the show, sued in February, arguing that he had been repeatedly passed over for writing jobs because he's a straight white man. See? all these allegations of reverse discrimination. I think we're only scratching the surface.
You know what? It is once again the audacity of the mediocre white man to say that he has been passed over for anything in this country. I think the CBS makes an excellent point. And how, there's a certain demographic in this country who loves to stand on the Constitution and the First Amendment. And I think CBS was very smart to throw it back in the face and say, we have a First Amendment right to hire as a private company, to hire who we think is going to be do the best job, in this particular case, in the writer's room. And because on this show and others, CBS is interested in telling stories, from various cultures, one should have the cultural competency to write about those stories. And so if you're talking about a story that is woman-led, why not have women in the writers' room, either as writers and or as consultants, to have those conversations to ensure that you are really touching on that, that you're understanding what the issue is, and that your audience, the people who are watching on TV, will connect with that particular story. And that's what happened here. As a private company, CBS said we have a First Amendment right to hire the best people we can find to write these stories, who perhaps have competencies in various issues with respect to the storylines that they want to tell.
Yeah, well, when we come forward, it's time for the quiet part out loud. Our thanks to April Rain for joining us yet again here on A More Perfect Union. Please, please, please come back again soon, friend.
I would be happy to. Thank you again for having me.
Anytime, anytime. More when we come forward, you listen to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
Have you been a victim or witness to hate or discrimination? Contact the California vs. Hate hotline to report the incident by calling 833-8-NO-HATE or visit cavshate.org. They'll help you access resources and support, including legal, financial, mental health, and mediation services. California vs. Hate is not affiliated with the police, and you can report anonymously. Use your voice. Report hate by calling 833-8-NO-HATE or visit cavshate.org. Res Radio 91.3.
KBLA Talk 1580. Got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Yo, come on.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chucky. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the power that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
Girl, I have a secret. When I get stressed out, I get sweaty. That's why I use Secret Clinical Antiperspirant. It's like my own secret weapon. For 72 hours, I get Secret's strongest protection against sweat caused by stress, heat, and activity, because you know how crazy life can get. Plus, it's made with advanced odor fighters that don't just cover up smelliness. They help prevent it from happening in the first place. Believe me, if I weren't wearing Secret, I'd be a hot, smelly mess. Thankfully, Secret works.
Ooh, I'm so ready for this weekend away with my girls.
Hit the road. How about some free gas?
Free gas? How?
Try new Febreze car for some serious freshness and you can win gas for a full year. Visit Febreze.com to learn more.
Say less.
You may not win, but you're going to have a fresh smelling whip.
Thanks, DJ Fresh. Now how about some music?
Hey, yo, this next one goes out to new Febreze car for giving you a chance to win free gas.
La, 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 la.
No purchase necessary. Must be 18 to enter in 73124 for rules and how to enter. Visit Febreze.com.
Watch out!
The galaxy is safe once again. In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
It's about that time for the quiet part out loud right here on A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. The Washington Post is reporting that the Biden campaign edges in on Trump's trial media frenzy with De Niro outside the court. We're not talking about money. We're talking about Robert De Niro. The Biden campaign took its biggest step towards engaging with Donald Trump's criminal trial by staging a news conference on the courthouse doorstep today, injecting the president's core campaign themes into the coverage, but feeding claims from Trump's team that the prosecution is political. The Biden campaign brought actor Robert De Niro, who recently provided the voiceover for the Biden television ad, and two officers who helped defend the U.S. Capitol from rioting Trump's supporters on January 6, 2021. The focus on Trump's tolerance and inspiration of political violence reflects one of three themes that the Biden campaign is driving leading up to the first debate on June 27th in Atlanta, the other being abortion and economic policies. Take a listen to Robert De Niro and the view of so many saying the quiet part out loud on the door on the courthouse steps where the Trump trial is coming to a conclusion.
And in 2016, it was like a joke. This buffoon running for president. No, never could happen. We'd forgotten the lessons of history that showed us other clowns who weren't taken seriously until they became vicious dictators. With Trump, we have a second chance, and no one is laughing now. This is the time to stop him by voting him out once and for all. We don't want to wake up after the election saying, what, again? My God, what the hell have we done? We can't have that happen again. This is not a threat. This is a reality. And that's why I've joined the Biden-Harris campaign, because the only way to preserve our freedoms and hold on to our humanity is to vote for Joe Biden for president.
Look, that was in the world according to Robert De Niro. That's what he had on his heart to share today, and many of you may feel similarly. But De Niro has been out there for a minute, really, not mincing words when it comes to Donald Trump. And so there was Robert De Niro today, sort of taking his beliefs, his concerns about our country to the courthouse steps in New York City. We'll see how that resonates with folks. But let me finish with this, end on a high note, and shout out to Erin Haynes, the editor at large over at the 19th. She's been on this show a number of times, and I'm sure she is doing the happy dance today as the 19th receives a multi-million-dollar grant from Melinda French Gates. That's right. The 19th is overjoyed. This is what they wrote today. They're overjoyed to report today that philanthropist and gender equity advocate Melinda French Gates is making a not 1 year, not 2 year, but a 3-year multi-million-dollar grant to their nonprofit newsroom to support that will allow them to advance their public service journalism, expand their audience, and sustain their operation for years to come. The funding for the 19th is a part of a $1 billion. That's right, $1 billion with the B. $1 billion strategic initiative French Gates announced today aimed at supercharging the work of organizations in the women's rights, caregiving, and reproductive rights arena. She will also be providing a group of global leaders with $20 million grants to distribute to organizations they believe are doing urgent and impactful work to advance women's health and well-being. And she'll be launching an open call this fall to fund organizations working to improve women's mental and physical health around the world. This isn't French Gates' first support for the 19th. Pivotal was one of the 19th's earliest supporters, enabling their news organization to get off the ground in the mid-2020 in the midst of the global pandemic and to effectively serve women and LGBTQ people who were underrepresented in legacy media. Hello. The news couldn't come at a better time for the 19th, which is embarking on its 5th year in operation and in the midst of charting a strategic course for the next 5 years. And so congratulations to my friend Erin Haynes and her entire team over at the 19th on this hard-earned and well-deserved grant from Melinda French Gates. I'm sure it is money well spent. We'll have to leave it there. My thanks to the entire village that helps us to produce a More Perfect Union each and every day. Our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer extraordinaire, Miles Lowe, our show producer, Robert Battles, and podcast publishing guru, we see you, Odell Bodie. And of course, to each and every one of you, all of our leaders, learners, and listeners, we thank you. We appreciate you. You're why we do this each and every day. Remember, don't panic, organize. Do what you can from where you are with what you have. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. You've been listening to A More Perfect Union